Well, hello. What is your name? You come here often?
I'd smack you.
I'm trying to do a serious interview with Janice and respond to the Steve Ishdahl video that has been posted and shared, and some people shared it, linked back to me, and I sent it to Janice and forwarded it to her so she could take a look at it. But we're just sitting down here having a good old time, just reminiscing about the past, and thought we'd share a little bit of it with you all, you know, and just kind of say, hi, yippee, it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look at this scenery. I mean, do you reckon there's any ground sticks here? No. Any signs of Bigfoot here?
Go back that way.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have to go very far to find them, honestly, because, I mean, they pretty much find you. I mean, the Bigfoot. We were talking earlier today about how, in some ways, particular anyway, that the Bigfoot chose us or chose certain people or certain things, and it's not to say that we're special in any way or gifted any more than anyone else. It's just that you know, life circumstances and stuff, like situations that even brought me and Janice together. Like I knew Janice before she ever knew anything about me, obviously, and it was like they brought us together in a way, you know, the commonality between us, and then the shared research on Bigfoot as well. So Steve Ishdahl was just talking about emails from Scott Carpenter, and I was friends with Scott. Yeah, between him and Mary Green, and talking about the Carter farm and Fox and the Bigfoot, and
How the house was shot at is in one of them.
yeah.
In fact, that had to have been in 2003. I was still with my ex Paul Coy at the time, and there was some men that passed by the house. They shot through the house. There were 3 bullets holes that went through the top of the house into the attic, and the kids came running back in. They were waiting on the school bus that morning. The kids came back in, and I'm calling them all my kids. It's my stepchildren and my middle daughter at the time. And we called the law. Of course, the local sheriff came out. And I didn't know that they had caught the men that were involved. But they did ask me if they did catch them, if I wanted to prosecute. And I said, no, I just don't want for being shot at. You know, but at that time, there was a lot of other stuff that was going on, too. I was getting mail that was, my mail went missing for over a year. It didn't come to my mailbox. I had, one of my ex-husbands almost got in trouble for not paying child support.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been religiously sending child support.
Wow.
I just wasn't getting those checks. A year later, I started getting all those back checks.
Wow.
You know, at the time, ODB, Eric Bickjord, he's deceased now. We were mortal enemies to begin with, but there he came to the farm eventually, but originally he sent a blanket saying, in a box, saying that it was for Fox and Sheba, and well, Sheba wasn't alive at the time, but for Fox and the family, and it had arsenic poisoning on it. I got arsenic poisoning myself from touching the thing. I mean, my hands, my legs and everything just went numb, and they were cold. It's like they were freezing. It's hard to explain. But we did away with that blanket, and he was like a thorn in the side. He showed up at the farm, at the Carter farm, of course. I told him, I said, you know, I was an asshole. I said, you go out there and you stay in that back barn, in the poop barn. I said, if you can stay there all night, yeah, I'll let you see Fox and them. Well, early there in the wee hours of the morning, he come back running to the house, scared the living daylights out of him. But you know what? Until he died, he'd send me religiously a check every month to feed the Bigfoot.
Wow.
To help support him.
Wow.
Because I think he thought that I was making all this crap up.
I guess that was after your grandfather had died.
Oh yeah, this was well after. This was after we published, me and Mary Green published 58 years with Bigfoot, told my story, my grandfather's story basically.
So after the story came out, that's when the house was shot up and everything?
Yeah, everything. I mean, people hated me to begin with.
Yeah.
Because I went against the long-held belief that they were more than big dumb apes.
Yeah.
I was not pro-kill. I haven't ever been pro-kill. Why do you have to kill anything?
Yeah, how can you learn? How can anything dead tell you anything about it?
Right.
You know,
and I said they had language. I've never changed that. I went to the Russians. That was another thing that wasn't well accepted because I couldn't get anybody here in the United States or in Canada.
No other scientists, really?
No scientists. Nobody wanted to believe my story because I said, okay, here's what I know.
What about Roy Wagner, though?
Well, that
or was that his name, Roy Wagner? Okay.
Yeah, Professor Wagner was later.
Okay.
But anyway.
But initially, people just
they
scoffed and mocked and ridiculed and
hoax. Or I've been called everything imaginable.
Just like Steve Ishdahl mentioned that.
They gave me all kinds of grievance.
Perfectly good, honest, hardworking people that they worked concerted, evil effort to discredit people that know the real truth.
Bumpkin, and I have a college education.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. It said that I was making up. I've been accused of being on all kinds of drugs and everything else. They absolutely hated me. I butted heads with some of the best of them. I butted heads with John Green.
Can you talk about some of the research, though?
Fehrenbach and everything.
Yeah.
Well, Hitter put me up to a lot of stuff trying to get hair samples and DNA samples and whatnot. And then I got with Erickson, Adrian, and I sort of went off grid for a long time.
Well, I guess so. After somebody shot your house up and kids at the bus stop.
I sold the house in 2000. I sold the house and the property in 2004. Well, actually, it was.
That's when people thought that you were dead, and we're going around saying that you were dead because you were. No communication, no cell phone, no TV, nothing.
Nothing was in my name. Nothing was in any of us' name. I had gotten a divorce I didn't get a divorce from Paul until later, but
the house had been broken into,
things
had been stolen, but not anything of value, like just Bigfoot related items.
Yeah, research related stuff.
Like the clay ball with the hair.
No, Igor took that to Russia
did he?
with him.
Okay.
But see, people hated me for getting a hold of the Russians, but oh my God, Dmitri and Igor and Mike, and Jane Kaufman, all studied that with Professor Porcif and all them back when Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson made that film.
Yeah.
And they authenticated it. There's no way, it is authentic.
And the Russians have the copy of the real film.
Well,
supposedly.
One of them does. It's a long story.
And Renee DeHenden took it to Russia and needed money to get back to the United States or Canada, and then so that's where the original film went.
Yeah, but this wasn't even a generation copy. But anyhow, all said and done, I thought, okay, if anybody's going to believe me, they'll believe me. They'll take a look at it because they had the cases on.
They had the real film and
they looked and studied the film and everything.
And she had children too.
Yeah, Zana did.
Russians that were half human and half Sasquatch.
Yeah, but all said and done, okay. But like I said, I went off grid. Nobody heard from me. I was very, very low key. I worked on the DNA projects and everything else, collected my DNA and stuff. But well, some of these organizations, I won't mention which ones, but a lot of them, you know, they couldn't stand me because people want to believe something.
But eventually, some people did come around, though, to
Yeah, they
recognize
come
it.
around.
I was there one time, and a guy publicly put you on stage and said that he absolutely apologized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Randy, what was his name? Randy?
Hatcher.
Yeah.
But that's.
And that takes a lot of class, really,
Yeah.
to do, and especially at a public event in front of an audience, a live audience, to get up and, at a conference, Bigfoot conference, no
But
less.
I don't hold grudges against people because, you know, it challenges a lot of people when they hear about a Bigfoot. First off, it's a scary encounter to begin with.
And you've even mentioned when we had a particular sighting, contacting Coleman, Lauren Coleman,
I butted
because
heads with Lauren. He even sent his brother and another guy here to debunk my case, you know. And I'm like,
try to disprove the farm and
they're driving
everything.
down the road. They hung their heads.
Yeah,
Met
when
them at
they-
the mailbox. I said, "Hey, I'll take you out. Come on, let's go." Never happened. They wouldn't even get out of the vehicle. Drove all that way for nothing.
Well, I mean, if you really knew the truth yourself about Blackie and the rape and other things down there, would you want to get out of the car too? I mean, really? I mean, they knew the truth, even though they were there to cover it up. Yeah, well, that's the way to deny it. Positively deniability, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, they didn't know it, but at the time, Blackie wasn't around at the time. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there, but Fox and Nikki and them, Bo and them were, you know, squeaky. But Hank Nene, but any rate. But, yeah, I mean, I ran the gauntlet basically of.
But
these
you told me one
people.
time, like, who else are you going to call to find out about these cryptids? You know, you call someone like, what's his name? Coleman? What's his name? How do you say it? Lauren Coleman?
Lauren Coleman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's cryptozoologist.
Yeah.
You know, I went to a lot of these people, and finally, you know, it's like, I'm sorry, but none of them knew any more than I did, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, I guess I'm out here on the limb by myself. And then Dimitri, after interrogating and everything, and after I went public, well, I need to back up, because back in the 90s, I had a friend from Ohio, he's deceased now too, Dallas Gilbert, and my half-sister Lila put me up to going public with what I knew. Dallas told me to contact Mary, and I did.
The East Tennessee or the Tennessee Bigfoot lady, or
Tennessee Bigfoot lady.
Tennessee Bigfoot lady?
By back in the day. But
Mary Green.
yeah, Mary Green, Dallas Gilbert. He was from Portsmouth, Ohio, and I did. Very, very good person. I've been out in the field with him too many times to talk about in the years past. But he said, she's a really nice lady and she will believe you. I said, you're not going to believe me. I in the initial email to her, she probably thought I was a nutcase, which I probably sounded like a nutcase. But I just laid it out on the table, and she called me immediately.
Wow.
And then she wanted to know if she'd come visit. That was in February. I said, come on, you know, and she brought some people with her. And we went out there into what used to be the old garden tobacco field. And Fox come down the hill. I know she saw him come down the hill. They had bionic ears. It was so cold. So blooming cold that the batteries were going dead immediately, and the electronics and stuff. And she got a small clip of him coming down the hill in behind the trees, but you couldn't really make out detail. It's another blob squatch.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a million of those. And They got to hear him and everything, and I left a blanket out for him, and there was a little bit more detail that I'm going to leave out because that's neither here nor there either. But there was some other occurrences that they knew that I was legit with what I was saying. So Mary started doing an interview with me and my half-sister, and it was hours and hours. And then here's Dimitri and Igor, and Dimitri interrogated me one way, every shape and way that he could. He'd ask the question 50 different directions, and the truth doesn't change. When you're telling the truth, the answer to the question is not going to change. There's only one answer to give. I mean, and you're going to get caught in lies. You know, so why bother? I don't have anything to prove. I could care less. Am I going to get rich off of Bigfoot? Hell no. I spent out more money over the years.
You were just interested in getting the truth out there, setting the record straight.
They are a type of people. I've never claimed
never
that
said that they were human.
I never said they were human. I said they were
even though they're
people.
part human according to the DNA, the mitochondrial side of the DNA.
Yeah, the mother's side of the DNA. Yes.
Yeah, part human.
But at the time, the DNA was not advanced that much. The first two tries for DNA, we went with a scat sample, hair samples, and what they extracted, well, actually the first 3 times, they said, okay, there is human cross-contamination, they thought. Okay. The 4th time, I sent my DNA in, my hair samples and stuff, in with the hair sample. And I said, we wore gloves. I had a scientist go with me that collected it.
And so there was no chain of custody issue or contamination
no cross-contamination.
And they can rule out that contamination now, just like the OJ case where the police trampled over everything, then the evidence, they can now
there was no
isolate the contamination. If there is contamination,
but
and still get DNA results.
You know, it came back human.
You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can
human, and these carpenter ants are awful.
Yeah, we picked the perfect place by the lake.
But
ant hill.
But anyhow, they you know, it's always come back human or human contaminated back in the early days, the early stages of the research. The nuclear, which is father's side, is an unknown. That being said, people speculate, oh, they're from the Nephilim, oh, they're alien, oh, they're this, that, and the other. We don't know. There's nothing here that we have here
to compare it with. There's nothing known comparison.
To compare it with.
Yeah. Out of all the other DNA samples that they can compare it with.
Now, through hominids to hominids, we only have 2 ancestors in our evolutionary chain of
like Neanderthals and Denisovans or Denisovans, depending on how you pronounce it.
Yeah, depending on how you pronounce it. Those are the only 2 DNAs that we have. We don't have it from Homo erectus. We don't know what Homo erectus was. We don't know what Cro-Magnon was or any of the rest of them.
Right. Homo hybridogenesis or any of the others.
So
Homo floresiensis.
Until we are able to get DNA from there, we don't know that the Bigfoot's nuclear DNA doesn't match something somewhere. You know,
it's just simply unknown at this point.
Unknown. But like I said,
but you all were pioneers with that DNA study, really.
Well, yes, and
you found out that
a lot of people were very jealous. Very, like I said, they.
Because you had real evidence, like actual physical evidence.
Put us down and shut me up and everything else.
When everybody else was running around trying to get a dead one, you had a live one.
Yeah, and they also
that could speak to you.
Me. And as you see, William is holding the camera, videoing me.
Yeah.
Or the phone or whatever. I am horrible at taking pictures. He's a witness to that, aren't you? I've gotten better since the cell phones came out.
Yeah.
A lot better. But you know,
You've got pictures.
I've got pictures.
People
It's
always
just-
say, well, if they're so real and she's so blah, 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 where's all the pictures? Well, who's to say that there aren't pictures?
well, true. But
Yeah.
the thing of it is, what's the use in sharing them? Because nowadays AI can
Right.
manifest an image.
Things can be fake, CGI, computers, artificial
even the
intelligence,
best video,
deep fakes and everything.
video.
I mean, if they
or-
can bring Luke Skywalker back
yeah,
and put him in a movie,
yeah. But
yeah.
but as far as that goes, I mean, no amount of video, no amount of pictures is going to prove, without a doubt, that. I mean, even look at the Roger Patterson and Bobby Gimlin film, Patty.
Yeah.
You know, people are still debating whether it's authentic, whether it's real,
Right.
whether it's been faked, and this is what
I believe it's real just
doggone
because
60,
I can base it off of actual sightings I've had.
63 years later.
Like the grass-looking skirt around the buttocks and
Well-
where the back of the legs join together, and everybody says it's just a suit.
Yeah,
Oh, it's not a costume.
it's
That's
not
how
a
the
costume,
hair
it's not.
lies. That's the way the hair
And-
meets together.
We even, you know, big group.
But you'd have to see that to know that, though, to understand that it's
Yeah,
real. You
that
know,
it's real.
that it's not a costume.
It's like a big group of people. I mean, I corresponded, like I said, with a large group of close circle, what I consider legitimate
Yeah,
research.
real scientists, really.
Well, scientists, or at least they were educated in their field of
Yeah,
research.
doctors, even.
Doctrines or whatever.
Yeah,
That said, no, I didn't go with the general public. What the heck's the use? I mean, not that the general public, I don't like the general public or whatever, you know, or your lay people. It's just that I needed to go with a higher standard if I wanted to prove something.
right. You
You
were
know.
trying to get like the basic equivalent of a white paper report that could be tested and evaluated and
Yeah, stand
analyzed
up to
and
peer
proven.
review
Yeah,
and
stand
everything.
up to peer review,
Yeah.
scientific review, scientific proof. You were after the hard evidence
Yeah, and I
that
always,
everybody else was lacking. Nobody had the real proof. You know, people say, "Well, where's the proof?" Well, you had it
I had it. I was
and still
able
got
to
it.
get it.
Yeah,
You know, and you know, geez, I've been public for, let's see, that was 2002 when we came out with the book. This is 23 years.
wow.
So, you know, and I feel like I've accomplished what I was set out. Did I get them recognized? Did I get the Bigfoot recognized? Did I get them protection? You know,
Yeah, you did work trying to get an endangered species or something
Yeah.
act in Tennessee passed, didn't you?
yeah, it passed for a couple of
Petitions.
years,
How many signatures did you have to gather and raise?
but I had to go to a lot of people, but we did get it for 2 years, and then they dropped it.
Yeah.
You know, but
And it is interesting, however, that Tennessee, in order to have a season to legally hunt something, it has to be in season. And since there is no season for Bigfoot,
or
they are
hyena here in
protected then.
Tennessee.
you know, you can't kill one out of season and not get in trouble, even though it is murder. It would be considered,
Well, it's like
human
I used to
DNA,
tell people,
so-
people that don't know any better,
yeah.
that there are hyena here in Tennessee, and they are
Yeah.
on the endangered species
Well, we
list.
got wild boar and everything
We
else
got
here.
wild boar, we got leopards, we got. Heck, they never did catch the tiger last year that got away up there in Knoxville. Where in the hell is the thing at? Excuse my language.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Nashville has over 200 elephants, or
Yeah.
over 100
Yeah.
elephants on 200 acres or something, on a
Heck, we had
private
capybara and
sanctuary.
yeah.
Yeah, we had a capybara running loose. Like, what the heck's a capybara running loose on this lake right here?
Tennessee.
In Tennessee, yeah. I got pictures of it on the nightly news.
Mm,
And I tracked it that day. I'd actually went looking for Bigfoot tracks, and I was like, what kind of tracks are these, you know? Yeah.
It's like we ran across. Well, you and I ran across all kinds of footprints. I
Yeah.
usually pass them by and don't pay that much
Other
attention to 'em.
cryptids and stuff, other unknown
You
species.
know, we've
that,
also come across bear and big cat and
yeah.
wolf and coyote, and, dog, regular animal.
Regular,
things.
yeah. What about a pack of wild dogs? Imagine, getting run out of a peninsula where you got water on three sides of you and they're coming in behind you, closing. I mean, we about had to make a swim for it or something if we didn't make it back to the vehicle. You kept saying, "Come on, William, come on. When I say it's time to go, it's time to go."
It took you a little bit to learn that.
Well, I
when
couldn't
said,
believe the
"Come on,
sound
let's
of
go."
those howls. It sounded like a railroad train's brakes squealing. It's like, I was like, "Is there a train up there?" And you're like, "No, William, there's no train on top of that mountain. Let's go." And I was just like dumbfounded. I didn't know what to think or make of it, really.
Well, but it's like.
But it's real.
It's all real. I've never lied to you. I mean, I know you have my back. You are a very, very good research partner because you have my back and I have your back. If we don't come out together, neither one of us is going to come out.
Right.
If we get in a sticky situation, and we've been there, we've done that. We've
Yeah.
got the battle scars to prove it.
Yeah.
If not physical battle scars,
Mental,
the mental.
PTSD and everything else that goes along with it. And it's real. I mean, you try to overcome those fears and stuff and anxiety from it or post-traumatic encounters. And not all encounters are bad. I
Not
mean,
all
there's
of 'em are
some
good
that
either.
are and some that aren't. So, you kind of have to take it with a grain of sand and realize that some people are bad, some people are good. It's the same thing, with humans even.
But it's like, I went off grid, like I said. I sort of, when we were doing the DNA studies, I was limitedly back online. I don't think I really came back. I didn't come back.
This is
full
when you were
force.
off grid.
Yeah. I came back to Tennessee in 2007, the later part of 2007. I'd moved out of state and was doing research for other individuals that were
Other
back
groups and
well,
people.
not
or,
groups. Adrian Erickson and Lawrence Lavelle.
Other projects. I guess that was the
and-
Erickson project,
yeah.
part of it or something.
Part of collecting
And
the DNA and
Melba,
getting the evidence
Ketchum.
and stuff, Melba and everything.
Now, she's a real scientist, real doctor. I mean, she's legit.
Yeah.
She
She's a
was able to break down the process to
Yeah, and the thing of it is,
collect
people don't
and isolate
realize
the DNA.
that those samples were farmed out to other labs and stuff to do the DNA analysis. They think that Melba did it all, and she just says, "Here it is. This is what it is."
And some of
that's
those
not the
labs
truth.
didn't want to be identified
No,
once they
they
tested it and then found out, because nobody told them what they were testing. It was up to them to
come
determine
up
it.
and determine
You know,
what
there
it
was there was no power of suggestion involved with.
And Fox, like I said, I've told you a million times, probably heard it so many times you've got it memorized, that Fox made it into the DNA studies 11 times.
Yeah, we saw about
Because
that today.
I had passed his DNA through hair and other samples, saliva and stuff, to multiple people.
Scott Carpenter had Fox's DNA.
Yeah, Igor
Mary
had
Green.
it, Mary,
Dr. Igor Butsev.
and and Randy up in Canada, and just a bunch of us. Let's put it that way. And then I think I was the only one with Melba that I sent her my DNA too. Because I didn't want it to be, here's cross-contamination. This woman's faking this stuff again. Because every time I sent something or did something and it went public,
Yeah.
people were doubting Thomas's, or they were skeptics, or whatever you want to call them. They called me a liar, a hoax, mental job, and everything else. Henner put me up with some crazy stuff, Fairmont back in the day, trying to. I want to address this because there was a post on Facebook in one of the Bigfoot groups that are on there
The people that call bullshit on everything.
Yeah.
That have no basis for saying anything because they have no evidence, no proof.
But one of the people went
Just
in
their
there
opinion.
and took up for me because it was talking about the garlic, me giving Fox garlic at the back door. Okay, that was not in 50 years. You'll never find it in 50 years with Bigfoot. That was, Henry had put me up, said he needed the hair follicle from the hair. I sent him, I don't know how many bags full of hair, okay? Because he was hard to get along with at times. We butted horns and locked him, I don't know how many times. But he says, well, we need DNA samples. And he first sent me a fingerprinting kit and a fish tank and some mason jars and wanted me to try to lift fingerprints, get them to drink out of that dang fish tank. And I'm like, now, Hitler, what the hell am I supposed to do with this fish tank? What am I putting goldfish in it and setting it out there for him or what? You know, he said, well, pour some Kool-Aid or something in those mason jars.
So by you giving Fox the garlic, that was how you collected the DNA from the hair?
No, he came to the back door.
Yeah.
They use garlic to keep, it has to be a clove.
Yeah.
And they break it up. Garlic, if you cut garlic or chop up garlic to put it in a dish or baking or anything, it smells. It's got a raunchy smell to it. But they used it to keep mosquitoes off of them. Now, Igor knows this as well as I and some other people, that the Bigfoot have their own species, own type of body lice.
And someone...
And they're big.
Charlie Raymond asked me, I'd like to know how he knows that. Well, this is how I know that.
Igor collected them out of foxes and them's.
Right. They have their own species of lice. Each species. Cows have cow lice. Horse have horse lice.
Pig lice, chicken lice, you name it.
Humans have human lice. And so the Bigfoot,
have their own
they found out
type
there's a new species of lice from gathering the hair samples sent for DNA.
Well, not
was
for
it,
DNA.
They sent it to Copenhagen, or where was it?
Yeah, they sent that. Igor had that. I let him take it back to Russia with him. And
then from there, they sent it to a lab in Germany?
In Germany, yeah.
Because the lice had hatched out or something, or whatever lice do.
Out of the egg.
They found lice in with the sample, so they sent it to a lice specialist in Germany or something.
Yeah.
And they discovered this new species. So that just shows you scientists, they've not discovered everything. We think everything is known that exists out there. Most people that call bullshit, they think they know everything already anyhow. And that there is no evidence or proof of everything. Well, if it's real, how come she don't have pictures? Well, they're assuming there's no pictures. They have no proof there's no pictures. Like, how can they prove that?
We have pictures. Igor has pictures.
Yeah.
He has his own case. I accomplished.
Well, I mean, Bob Giblin and Roger Patterson film.
There are pictures, but when you show it to people,
got video.
They're going to say, oh, well, that's fake. That's a person in a suit, yada, yada.
I saw the video of the Bigfoot driving a car, so, you know.
Well, that was Greg. That's Gisha. Igor in his case. Over there in Russia.
So.
You know, and I feel like I accomplished a lot because...
Well, you were a true pioneer.
Igor...
You were ahead of your time and a woman, you know, in a field full of men that are so-called experts.
It was in 2000...
And there are no experts.
There is no experts. I am not an expert. I do not want to be labeled a Bigfoot expert or a Sasquatch research expert because I am not.
Right.
There's always
We're just reasonably knowledgeable individuals.
Yeah. There's
just
always something new to learn.
Yes. Because when you think you know it all, then you discover how much you really don't know. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you know it, and then you don't know it all.
But like I said, he came to the door, or Fox did, back door of the old farmhouse. He wanted garlic to keep mosquitoes off of him. And I thought, okay, and I went in and I got that garlic clove and I took it out there and I handed it to him with this hand into his hand And I reached up on his arm and I snatched, I pulled a whole plunk of hair. His eyes got big. I was like, I ran back in that house. You talk about hauling ass. I was like, oh my God, he's going to come after me and he's going to plummet me, you know, into a bloody mess. But he didn't. He just turned around and said, thank you, you know, and left. That I did get the hair follicles. I did get the follicles. I got the roots. But
boy,
there was a lot of easier ways I could have done that.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, okay.
Moment of opportunity there.
Yeah, I seized upon the moment.
I seized upon the moment.
But you know, it's like through the years, you know, I met you, you know, in what,
2019 or 2020? Probably
19.
2019.
Because we came up here. You helped me move back here.
Probably the summer
20.
that year.
Yeah. Well,
because then we met again in the fall in October.
Yeah. But anyway, you know, like I said, I went off grid. Okay, I came back on limitedly and did a talk show. We weren't on Pow Talk, we were on, oh crap. It was one of these podcast shows that we do every week with. I did it with J.C. Johnson and Darwin, what in the world? I can't even think of what his last name is, from out there in Oregon. And we would talk about, we had a lot of followers, we had a lot of people come on to the show and, you know, did interviews and everything. Of course, once again, I got put down the road a lot. But JC, you know, and Leonard Dan and them came to visit.
Yeah.
And everything. Then
they were also sort of like peers and pioneers alongside with you, weren't they?
Yeah.
And was it Bobby Shore?
Bobby
See,
Shore.
I didn't know her
Bobby
then.
Shore.
But
no, she had the Bigfoot Chronicles website. I mean, even Bobby called me crazy. Wanted to know if I was on drugs or something to begin with. But this is a common thing. You know, if somebody comes up to you and they go against a long
there's a lot of stuff that you withheld, though. To say that there's no Bigfoot in Tennessee, I mean, yeah, there's probably 250,000 of them just in East Tennessee alone. Yeah.
Some of these areas,
if people even knew, I mean, downtown Knoxville even, where they don't think there's Bigfoot.
They're opportunists.
It's just like cave systems. They go in the sewer system and dumpster dive and garbage cans and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we have.
It's like Sesame Street, the little green guy in the garbage can, you know, and Tickle Me Elmo and Cookie Monster, they're all Bigfoot.
Flies to Craighead Hammers, Lost Sea.
Yeah.
It's what, maybe 8 miles.
Yeah.
As crow flies.
Yeah.
If you drive it by road, you know, we're depending on which way you go, which we know every back road in the county.
Yeah, we've been on a lot.
We've been on them. We can get there.
And some people wouldn't believe
15
that
miles.
To see a Bigfoot, one of the things that you really pioneered was just to drive around until you saw one. Like travel up and down the back roads at night, looking in areas where you knew that they would be at, and then chance upon a brief sighting of them.
Yeah.
And you were talking about earlier today your senses, how you use your sense even. And I joked about, your nose is the best sensor, you know.
My nose is not the best.
Well,
we can't even smell out of it.
Golly, I've smelled them, and you know.
Well, we know what they smell like.
You know when you experience that.
But it's like
odor from one. The nose knows.
People were friendly with me. That we had others. They called us habituators.
Yeah.
Okay. Habituation of what? Because that sounds like maybe we're trying to get these Bigfoot off of drugs or something.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what it sounds like
weird.
some kind of recovery or something.
Recovery.
Or habituator sounds like you're doing something else.
Yeah.
Habitual at something else.
I know, but whatever they wanted to tell us. But there was more than me. There was a few other women that came forward with their
true pioneers,
with their accounts, and they were from different places. But all said and done, like I said, I came back home. Scott Nelson, Ron Moorhead, and Al Berry had the Sierra and Sounds and the Samurai Chatter. In 2007, I went on a program. Robert Morgan had Ron Moorhead. I called in. I said, look, they are speaking English to you all. I said, I know what they're saying. Everybody gave me down the road because they said it wasn't possible that I knew what they were saying. You know, a lot of the Bigfoot research people and stuff. I said, I do know what they're saying. I was raised up around them. I can't make this up. You know, I know, and they're speaking English with an Irish accent. I can tell you their names. I can tell you what they were doing. I can tell you your story. You don't have to tell me your story of what happened out there. I can hear it from what the Bigfoot are talking and saying.
And then didn't you say Ron Moorhead even commented something about that they had never disclosed those details, that information?
They never disclosed some of the details.
Yeah, that you were telling them about their camp.
He went and he found Scott Nelson, who is a linguist, you know. And I'm not, how to put it, I don't have credentials.
Yeah.
In a lot of this.
But you took
area.
notes, so you took the best you could to record their writings and their language and their alphabet and communication.
I did go to Professor Roy
Basically,
Wagner.
like what a real anthropologist would do, like study and immerse yourself into that culture and that environment and live alongside with them even.
At the time, I took Roy Wagner. He's Professor Roy Wagner, the University of Virginia. He was a cultural anthropologist, taught classes up there. He went with me a lot of times out in the field. I said, I want to take this type of approach toward studying and researching the Bigfoot because they are a type of people. I mean, I have an unpublished, to this day, unpublished paper of his, what he
on
witnessed,
the Bigfoot, what he seen, experienced, learned, knew.
Yeah, with me, out in the field. But once again, it took Scott Nelson to say, hey, this is the language. He's never said it was English. He never said it. He said it's a type of language.
Didn't you say that Dimitri credited you in a book of his?
Yeah, one of his last books.
A real
Chris
complimentary...
Murphy, yeah, I can't think of the name of it. I've got it in the house.
But it's in a book. I mean, it's like in the foreword of a book or something where they said that as scientists, they were the student and you were the teacher, that you taught them.
Yeah, I almost
about
cried
the
because
Bigfoot.
I was giving Dimitri down the road. I was blasted him in an email, and then
he probably didn't believe in like remote viewing or stuff like that, or experienced it.
I proved that to him, and I mean
in graphic detail, like intimate detail and knowledge.
Yeah, and he was like, okay. He didn't doubt me after a while. He said.
And there's been other people that's experienced that too. People that had never met you before that you didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
I remember I was there for one. You told a man that he was pregnant. Not that he was going to have a child, but that his wife, who was his fiance, that was his girlfriend, because he had just proposed. They just got the results and nobody knew it. And then you even said that he was going to have a daughter, which his wife gave birth to a daughter, just like you told him, basically.
Yeah. I tell, I sort of freak people out because I can.
And this person went on a podcast show and admitted that. It's like, have you heard of Janice Carter? Oh, yeah, I've heard of her. Yeah, I've heard of her, ha, 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 and laughed about it. But then this person said, well, let me tell you about her, let me tell you what she told me, and nobody knew that.
Nobody knew that. But see, I can reach
Yeah.
in. I don't like to invade. It's like
Right.
it's just like with me and you. You
Right.
first met me. You came up. You were
Right.
very upfront. And I said, you stick with me. I never lied to you. I said, you
Right.
stick with me long enough, you're going to go down that rabbit hole. You're going to see everything imaginable, not just Bigfoot.
Yeah, you're going to
I am
see
known
all
for the
kinds of
Bigfoot.
things if you stick around.